Hello and happy Friday, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. And this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm, I'm your host, Norm, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Mr. Dan Goldman. Danny, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Norm. It's quite an honor.
Yeah, sure it is. I'm sure all 12 of my live listeners are going to be, thrilled to have you here. So Danny, just before the mics went on, just before the show started, said, "Why am I here again?" And it's because, in case you don't know him, he's an amazing artist, a really beautiful photographer, and more than that, just a remarkably gentle soul and a nice guy. And like I said in the write-up thing, I don't know if you saw it on social media, kind of a man about town. Everybody knows Danny. And when I posted you're going to be here, people were like, "Oh, great, Danny. I love him," and wanted to know his story and all that stuff. So that's why you're here, Danny.
Okay, a little correction, though. Everyone knows my dog, Gus.
Oh, well.
I'm the guy that walks Gus.
Yeah, you're super, air quote, well-behaved dog.
He is so good.
Yeah, he's a beautiful dog. I'll give you that.
I love him.
Yeah, that's nice. You know, they have trainers and stuff who can train dogs. I'm just saying. Just teasing.
And the same thing for humans.
Just teasing. Oh, snap. All right, good. First shots fired. Danny, tell me, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Brooklyn. East 17th Street. That's kind of near the intersection of Church Avenue and Flatbush Avenue. Beautiful neighborhood. Near a dead end where we used to play punch ball and little handball.
And what was the neighborhood called?
Brooklyn.
No, really?
I mean, Flatbush Church.
Really?
Flatbush and Church.
You don't know when you told other people in Brooklyn when you travel to like Park Slope or Brooklyn Heights or?
I say the corner of Church and Flatbush.
All right. And how long did you live there?
Until I was 12.
And then what happened?
We moved to Port Washington. We left Brooklyn and headed to green grass, blue skies.
And did you have siblings?
I have a brother named Peter. 2 years younger than I. Lives in Connecticut. Love him.
And so did your folks really, did you think they moved because it's like better schools and more grass and the kids could play?
Urban flight. There was a lot of bad stuff going on in Brooklyn. I was going into junior high and they didn't want me to go to that school. So my dad was like, "It's time to move."
And what kind of bad stuff was going on? I mean, this is like 72, so the whole city was broke.
City was broke, but there was still a lot of social unrest.
And did you feel that at that age as a 12-year-old?
I did not.
You didn't. But later on, the parents are like, "Oh, yeah, Danny, it was social unrest." You're like, whatever.
Yeah.
And how did you like the move? How was the transition?
It was great. I got to cut lawns, which I loved, making the grass all perfect, and got to play basketball, which I had never played before, baseball, which I had never played before. Right. It was like a completely different lifestyle.
So you took to it. And how about your little brother? How did he take to it?
I think he loved it.
And you're like 6'3".
Yeah.
And so when you say basketball, it makes me wonder, were you a tall kid?
I was a tall kid, but I was like as skinny as a straw. I didn't have any meat on me at all. I was a skinny little kid that I barely could play basketball. It was a long journey.
Oh, you barely could play?
I could barely play because I'm from Brooklyn. We played punch ball. We'd never played basketball.
Wait, what's punch ball?
It's a suburban game. Punch ball is you throw the ball in the air and you punch it. And then you run to first base, which is that blue car over there.
Right.
And then you run to second base, which is the sewer.
The sewer grate.
The grate, right? And then, it's like that.
And what kind of ball did you punch?
It's a Pensy Pinky. Is that what it's called? Pensy Pinky?
Pensy.
One of these blue balls that people play stickball with.
Oh, yeah. Like a Spalding
kind of thing.
Yeah. And so that's not a big ball. It's smaller than a baseball.
Yeah.
And you'd throw it up and then you'd have to punch it.
Yeah.
And could you slap it? Was that illegal?
The name of the game is punch ball.
Okay. But still,
I guess maybe some people were getting over, but I wasn't noticing.
And was there an enforcer on the team? I'm guessing it probably wasn't you.
It definitely wasn't me, and no, nobody was enforcing.
Well, because I wasn't there. I'd been like, "Hey, you can't do that."
I believe that to be true.
Yeah. And so then and where was it in Long Island?
Port Washington.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Really nice. Friends I made in high school are still my closest friends today.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Really beautiful.
shout out to them? Are they all listening right now?
Shout out to my Schreiber High School, Port Washington buddies.
You know who
Watermelon,
you are.
Brenner, Cohen, Ryland, Fitz, Crackers, Hammer. I'm thinking of you guys.
Those real names?
Everyone had a nickname.
What was yours?
Goldie.
Goldie. Pretty good. Not super imaginative.
Al Jessen, my basketball coach, at some point said, "Get the ball, Goldie." And no one on the team forgot that. And next thing I knew, I was Goldie.
And was he a smoker, the basketball coach?
Al? I don't think he smoked.
With that voice?
No, I don't think he was a smoker, but he was cool to me.
Yeah. So basketball coach, you said you moved there. You sucked at basketball.
Sucked at
Did
everything.
you want to get better? I mean,
Yes.
And then somehow you made the team if you had a coach.
It's a great story. Do you have a minute?
Yes.
Well, all my friends, when I moved to Port Washington,
All the aforementioned friends.
all the aforementioned friends, they
Watermelon
all had
and doll.
houses. And every house, just imagine, every house had like a basketball court over their garage, and it was something like that. And they had a field down the street. So everyone was super athletic. And all I had was punch ball. And nobody wanted to play.
Did you bring a Spalding with you when you moved there?
No, I didn't. No. But anyway, where are we going with this?
I asked how you became proficient enough at basketball to make the team.
So I'm hanging out with all my friends, and they're all basketball players. And seventh grade, everybody tried out for the team, and I got cut. But halfway through the season, Zach Mayo's mom made him quit so that he could take guitar lessons. And there was an opening on the team. I had been the manager because I wanted to be with everybody. And there was an opening. Coach said, "Suit up." And I did.
And this was before the coach was calling you Goldie.
This is a different coach. A shout out to Roger Winter, if you're out there, and
who's certainly listening.
Mr. Mackover.
Mr. Mackover. It's a great coach name.
They were great.
And
These guys were great.
So now you have mediocre skills, and you're plucked from the chorus line,
Less
as it
than
were.
mediocre. Yeah.
Less than mediocre.
It took a lot of work, Norm, but I did it.
And what was that like? How did you practice all the time?
Every day. Come home from school. Everyone, went outside to play.
Right.
At the end of our block, Bill Strauss had handmade these basketball courts.
Was it a cul-de-sac?
No.
Okay.
But it was right next to Lions Field, and sometimes there was a lot of traffic, but most of the time there wasn't.
Uh-huh.
So we called that place SBA, Strauss Basketball Association. Bill, I hope you hear this someday. And we'd all play down the block.
The SBA.
At SBA.
I love that.
It was beautiful.
And if a car was coming, somebody would scream, "Car!"
Well, in Brooklyn, we used to say, car, C-A-R.
Stick your head in a jelly jar.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long
Island, we didn't have to do that.
How come?
Because there weren't that many cars.
Oh, that's true.
Brooklyn is, if you're lucky, you don't get hurt.
Yeah, car all the time. And did kids ever get hit by a car while you're doing this?
No. It's not like that.
That's good.
We were building friendships, improving our game.
That's nice. And so when did you get called up from the bench to actually play? What grade was that?
I think I played in a couple of games in seventh grade. It wasn't pretty.
And then you kept practicing. And what's the success story?
The success story is, it's a good one. In my senior year, I'm playing and I'm having the best game of my career. And there just so happened to have been a scout in the stands.
All right, define best game.
Best game for me ever was like 18 points. I'm usually 7 points, 6 points, 4 boards. Uh-huh. And, if I didn't turn it over 3-4 times, it was a good day.
Right.
So I couldn't do anything wrong. I couldn't believe it.
Amazing.
I don't know how this stuff happens, but it did. And after the game, he spoke to my coach. My coach said, he said, stands. He wants you to go to college. Would you go? Would I go? What else do I got to do?
Right. And who was
Basketball was my life. I'm not kidding.
Who was the
saved
scout
my
from?
life. A school called Quinnipiac.
Quinnipiac, and I believe you
Connecticut.
went there.
I went there.
And you went? Did you play basketball there?
I did for a year and a half.
And then what?
Well, I wasn't as good as the rest of the guys. I didn't have the potential to be a great player.
Right.
Not to mention my grades were subpar.
Your grades were
Subpar.
And did you graduate from Quinnipiac?
I did not. I quit.
Oh, now I knew the answer to that.
Yeah.
And when I met you, we were both living in Woodstock, across the bridge there in Make Hollow Road. And I was going through a tough patch in my life. You had just gone through a similar tough patch, and you were just the best thing that happened to me at the time.
And you were for me as well.
One of the best things. And you had not finished college, and I'm just saying this to lead into this other thing. And you decided you were teaching up there at Devereaux, and you decided you were going to finish college. And I watched you do that. And it was tough, and you did it, and I was just like so impressed. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to go get an MFA. And at the time, you and I were like 50, 52 or whatever. And then you went and you got an MFA, Masters of Fine Arts, from where?
Goddard College. Wonderful place, really great place.
Yeah. And what was your special area of concentration?
Well, it was a degree in interdisciplinary art.
Okay.
So I was kind of like learning to use everything that I had learned and experienced and put it into my art. I had some great teachers there that really supported my ideas and helped me grow them.
And which media did you use mostly?
Mostly photography.
And you're still doing that?
Yeah, I was a commercial, as you know, a professional photographer in Manhattan, Long Island.
When was that? So you were a tabletop photographer?
So I quit college, and my dad was like, well, okay, I understand, but you need to decide on a future. Reasonable request from a parent.
Yeah.
And this is another great story. You have any time?
Yeah, sure. We still have some time. I'm
sitting at the kitchen table with my father, and I'm flipping through the New York Times magazine, and I see a photograph of a Coach bag. Coach bag, this beautiful still life of a Coach bag. And I said to my dad, that's beautiful. I could be a photographer.
Really?
And because I didn't want to work on Wall Street. Everybody I knew was working on Wall Street. I had all my friends were highly intelligent for their age.
For their age. I'm hoping to get there someday.
Me too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got into photography right then and there. I learned photography. I kind of learned it the traditional way, like as an apprentice, working for great photographers, learning from them.
And how did you get those apprenticeships? I mean, those are pretty sought after.
True. I should back up and say before I did that, I took simple jobs as a photographer, shooting catalogs, which turned into then a job at Christie's, the auction house.
Oh.
And that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what were you shooting at Christie's?
Every piece of art ever created, not every piece, but whatever you can imagine that has ever been made and put up for auction, I photographed.
That sounds like a pretty good gig.
All of a sudden, I had an aesthetic, built it. I was learning so much and seeing all these great paintings and touching them and sitting with them for hours at a time.
And
it was wonderful.
You said you had an aesthetic. What does that mean?
That means I saw the beauty of what all these people were doing, and I wanted to have that beauty in my work. And I just kind of, through osmosis, inherited that way of seeing.
Okay. And how long did that last at Christie's?
5 years.
Sounds like a pretty sweet gig.
I was so happy, but I wanted to be a photographer, and photographing art is a very technical thing, but it's not that creative. So
backing up a little here, how did you learn the technical stuff? Did you learn on the job, on various jobs?
No, I went to I studied for 8-9 months at a place called the Germain School of Photography, which is like the TCI of photography. TCI was where you could learn how to work on a truck, how to fix an engine.
Yeah.
And there was a school called the Germain School of Photography, and I enrolled in that and learned all the basics.
And did you go in, or was it?
It was in Manhattan, lower downtown in the Broadway, across from City Hall. And we used to go to class, and, you know, it was very...
What?
It was great.
It sounds like an interesting time and an interesting place.
It was.
So this is mid 80s?
Early 80s.
But they taught you like the parts of the camera and f-stops and exposure and all that stuff.
Right, exactly.
And you're shooting film back then.
You're shooting film back then. And then I graduated and went out into the world looking for a job. And the first job I had was at a place called NZS, which was a catalog house that shot, you know, like JCPenney, stuff like that. And then after a year of having that, I was approached by a headhunter. There was an interview at Christie's. And I went in for this interview and I got hired. And just, you know, it changed my life again.
That's so sweet.
So cool, Norm.
And then you did the Christie's gig for 5 years.
Yeah, I moved into New York, had an apartment on the Upper East Side. Life was good, but my soul, I wanted to do art. I wanted to do something creative.
Right.
And when I told, you know, my parents I'm quitting Christie's, it's like, well, you better find a roommate. And I did.
Oh, you did?
My buddy, Dan Brenner.
Because my
best friend.
All of a sudden, you're not making a regular paycheck.
Right.
And you left. Did you open your own studio shooting similar kind of stuff?
After Christie's, I became a freelance fine art photographer, and I was shooting for galleries on Madison Avenue.
Okay.
And then after that, I moved out to Long Island, got married, and opened my own studio. No. It's been so long. You'll have to forgive me.
That's all right.
After all of Christie's and all of that, that's when I became an assistant for all these great photographers.
Okay.
And I learned, you know, the nuances, the real beauty of creative still life.
And what kinds of things were you shooting with these great photographers?
Absolute vodka.
Oh,
a lot of food photography.
Right. So tabletop stuff and food photography.
Stuff, yeah. But, you know, big accounts.
Uh-huh.
I learned so much there.
And what kinds of things were you picking up, like lighting or
lighting, especially lighting, because that's what separates the boys from the men. Is lighting, understanding how to really light and make something sexy that's not sexy.
And then, so you did that for a few years. Then you moved out to Long Island, opened up your own studio.
Yeah.
Shooting similar things for local and national clients.
National clients. I really got lucky, got a couple of big clients like Grey Goose. Before I knew it, my photographs were on buses, subways, buildings.
It was
a trip, man.
Thrill.
It was a trip. I was shooting and I had the Yankees. I did some work for them. And I just was in the right place at the right time, and they loved my work, and it was a beautiful ride.
Amazing. And is that stuff up on your website somewhere?
Some of the photographs are, under the commercial page, which is right underneath the art page.
That's good. You've got them in the right order.
I have it in the right order.
Yeah, I'm not sure I ever saw that stuff.
You think people are listening to this?
Yeah, I don't know. They can tell us right now. Probably 6 or 8 people.
Okay.
9, 10. Keep going. Yeah, people are listening, but people listen later on because we're doing this now, and then tomorrow it'll be on the website on radiofreerhinecliff.org, where you can listen anytime. Why do you ask?
I'm happy to share all this with you guys.
Well, it's interesting to me. And, is it interesting to other people? I'm not sure. You can call and complain or press the link on the website and send me an email complaining. But it's interesting to me how people get to where they are. And part of that is where you started.
I think hard work and luck and hard work get you there.
And at some point, you left Long Island.
At some point, I left.
And you moved to Woodstock.
Yeah, right. Well, I got married, lived in a town called Douglaston, really beautiful place. Was married for a very long time. I have 2 beautiful daughters.
Yeah.
Very close to them. I'll be with them tomorrow, Central Park, if anyone wants to Meet us. We'll be the people on the blanket with the yellow lab and the red wine.
Oh, that really narrows it down. And what's doing in Central Park? Just hanging with the kids?
Yeah, beautiful day. Both my daughters, one of my daughters lives in Manhattan, the other one lives in Astoria. So, and I'm going to see Henrietta Mantooth.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Our other neighbor. So across this bridge where we all lived, there were 3 houses. Mine was one, Danny's was one, and Henrietta's was the other.
Yeah.
Wow.
Miraculously, somehow I left a box of all my film in her studio.
Right.
And when she moved, she saved it for me. And I'm going to pick it up.
What a treat. We'll send her my best regards.
Of course. I can't wait to see what's in there.
Yeah. So when did you move north to Woodstock? And park this box of crap in Henrietta's studio?
I left Woodstock in like 2000. I moved to Woodstock in 2010.
Okay. Huh. And we met in like 2010.
Yeah, I kept seeing this guy with a tennis bag over his shoulder walking over the bridge. And I'm like, I bet you I could beat him.
Yeah. Yeah. How's that going for you?
Well, we haven't played in a while.
No, we haven't. But
I suppose you're ducking, but it's okay.
We're pretty even. You suppose I'm ducking? What does that mean? Is that some Douglaston throwdown thing?
No, it's not Douglas. It's like everyone knows what ducking is. You know, you're hiding. You're ducking me.
Oh, hiding. I'm hiding from you because I don't want to face. Could be. Yeah. I'm certainly not going to cop to that here in front of all 8 listeners.
I understand.
Yeah. And so you moved to Woodstock because you got divorced and you decided to try something else. How did you end up in Woodstock? I'm putting words in your mouth. I'm sorry.
When I got divorced, I lived in Rhinebeck for like 9 months, and then I lived in Saugerties for like a year, and I was dating a nice woman, but it didn't work out that well. And when we split, I needed to find a new home, and I saw this ad for an enchanted cottage over a river bridge, something like that. And I called her up. I don't even remember her name. Norm, do you?
Pearl.
I called Pearl up and I said, is your space still available? And she said yes. And I moved right in. It was beautiful. And it introduced me to Cooper Lake.
Cooper Lake.
My muse.
Oh, your muse. How so? Tell us about Cooper Lake and tell us about it being your muse.
Well, we lived about a half a mile from this really beautiful lake. And for me to go to work every day, I could either take the main road or I could take the road that takes me around Cooper Lake. And I always took that route. And I began taking photos of Cooper Lake, coming and going. And the pictures just blew me away. But they're surprised, I was very surprised. I'm a professional photographer who's used to using, high resolution cameras, big, large format film. And all of a sudden I'm taking pictures with a little hand phone. And I felt freed.
Amazing. And prior to this, had you done any sort of like landscape or fine art photography? You were a commercial guy.
Yeah, no, ever since I got into photography, I've been traveling the country doing landscape photography.
Okay.
Ansel Adams, Paul Strand, Weston Brothers, these people inspired me. So I always wanted to be a fine art photographer, but that doesn't pay the bills. And anyway, you have to learn, that too, you need to learn. You need to get good at it before you can really say I'm a fine art photographer.
Okay.
And it took me years, but I traveled and I made some great pictures. And that's how I met the Navajo, the Nahopi, the Diné.
And the Lakota? That
came later.
It came later. So how did you meet these members of these tribes?
I had a friend that was at NYU, and I think he was trying to figure out what to do for his thesis. And I said, you should do a movie, a documentary on Native Americans. And one day he showed up at my door and he said, I'm doing a documentary on Native Americans. And do you want to come and do the audio and the stills? And I did. And it changed my life.
And how so? Where was this? Tell us more.
This was in the Four Corners area on the Hopi and Navajo Reservation. So Navajo Reservation is the nation's smallest reservation, but it sits inside the Navajo Reservation, which is like the largest. reservation in our country
Okay.
on Turtle Island.
So which one's the smallest?
Hopi.
Okay.
And it was a life-changing experience.
How so?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
All right. Well, let's just go back to this because I'm trying to remember what are the states that make the Four Corners?
Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona.
Nice.
Thank you.
I had no idea.
I knew you had tested me, Norm.
Oh, I wasn't sure.
You were sure.
Yeah. Well, A, you know me too well, but B, I really wasn't sure.
Okay. I'm glad that I can.
Yeah, thank you.
You know.
So back now, I gave you a little time to think. How did that really change your life?
I've always been one of those people that wanted to know why and what and who. You know, I was always curious about life, and my parents. I'm a Jewish guy. But I could never really connect with, Judaism.
Were you raised religious? Did you have a bar mitzvah and stuff like
I
that?
studied for a bar mitzvah, but I bailed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't make any sense. I was 13 years old. What can a 13-year-old know about God?
Well, the
Tell me,
13-year-old,
does anyone here know about God?
they know
Raise your hands.
They know that their parents want them to do that.
Right. So, I just couldn't connect. And then I spent years, I sat with priests, pastors, Buddhist monks. I sat with everybody.
How? I mean, how did it come to pass that you're sitting with all these holy people?
Well, I lived in New York, and there are holy people all around. You just have to go up to them and say, hey, look, my name is Dan. I'd really like to meet you, and do you have any time to talk? And
that's fascinating.
No, that's the truth. And, I'm sitting with these monks, and I'm sitting with the rabbi, I'm sitting with the pastor. And
I'm guessing all of them said, sure.
They all did.
A little bit of time or not much time or plenty of time.
Yeah, I was interviewing them.
Nice. Toward what end?
Well, I'm trying to find my own spirituality, and I couldn't connect with any of them.
Right.
And then I went to the res, and I connected. And it changed my life.
It's amazing.
Such a beautiful story.
And so what did that connection feel like? I mean, what was the aha moment, the light bulb that went on in your soul, I guess, that said, wow.
I don't know if we have enough time, Norm, but
we do. We only have 4 hours left, so talk fast.
I was so impressed with how humble they were, how connected they were, really connected, like to the earth and to each other. And how much they really, how the ceremony was unlike any ceremony I'd ever seen. And it just touched my heart like no other thing I ever had. And I wanted to learn more. So after the documentary, I just kept going back. I made friends out there, and I spent time with them. And thank God. It was so beautiful.
So you spent more and more time there, and you got presumably to know some of them, and maybe some of the elders. And and were you invited into their culture to some degree?
Yeah, I was.
Into their society?
Well, not. I mean, I don't know what you mean by invited into their society. Did they ask me to do ceremony with them?
Yes.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
But here's the thing: I'm a white guy.
Yeah.
They're Native American. They brought me in because they believed I had a good heart. They knew I wasn't trying to be an Indian, a Native American, a First Nations person. They knew that I just wanted to learn from them.
Right.
And I think that they were able to read me, and they opened up their hearts to me.
Right. Huh.
I felt really lucky.
Coincidentally, the same reason you're here, because you have a wonderful, beautiful heart. And now, to segue into I'll drink to that time of the show, you brought some tequila for us to enjoy.
Thank you.
As is the tradition in the show. Would you pour me a little?
Do you need more ice?
I do not. Thank you so much. But thanks for bringing in a drink for us to have here on this Friday. Thank you. And cheers, Danny. A toast to your beautiful heart.
I love you, Norm.
Which is
I love you, Norm.
Well, yeah, make sure you enunciate. I love you too, Daniel. And thanks for being here. So you went back time and time again to the reservation there, Hopi. And at some point you started a nonprofit.
I did.
That to help the First Peoples out there.
Well,
can you talk about that?
I will. The people that I got to know out there were elders, traditionals.
Uh-huh.
And life for traditionals is very challenging. They're trying to hold on to their roots. They're trying to hold on to their culture. And America kind of sort of has their foot on their throats, making it as hard as it could possibly be for them to be who they are.
Right.
And that really pissed me off. And I went home. I mean, I lived in a very affluent area, and I had good friends in Queens, in New York, Long Island. And I asked my friends to help, and many of them did. And
what kind of help were you?
I was looking for money to give to them to buy firewood and coal. I was looking for clothing for them to clothe their grandchildren.
Right.
And people came through.
Because the poverty there was...
You can't imagine the poverty there. You cannot imagine living in a cinder block house with 9 people, no electricity, no water. It's horrible. It's terrible. But their hearts are strong. Their minds are strong. And one of the things that impressed me so much about them is they prayed a lot, and they prayed for us, Norm, to wake up.
Us being the non-Aboriginal Americans. Yeah.
And that they would do that first before they even asked for themselves. I had never seen anything like that before, heard anything like that, and they took my breath away. And I'll do anything I can to support them till my last breath. And
this nonprofit, is it still existing?
Well, Lomakachi exists, I suppose so.
Was it once a 501c3? So
yes, 501c3. Yep.
Is it now? I mean, don't you have to renew that every year or something?
You don't have to renew it. You just have to send in this form, which I don't remember. You know the name of the form. Norm, what is it?
I don't know the name of the form.
I haven't sent the form in, so I had to re-register. But then it's still a viable, not-for-profit.
And is there a website?
There is a website. It's called lomakachi.org. Lomakachi are Hopi words for a life in balance, a world in balance.
Nice. Yeah. Can you spell that?
Lomakachi. But the thing is, the site is incomplete right now. I need someone to help me build it.
Oh, okay. So if anybody's listening,
all 8 of you,
who wants to help do that, and people who listen later, online,
I could use your support, and so could they. And if you have the time and the skills, please reach out to us.
That'd be great. So I'm guessing there's not a donate button on the site.
Right now, when you go to the website, you see a line, and it says, "This website is being reconstructed." And
right.
It's not viable. I mean, I have all the content. I just don't know how to build a website, and I'm busy.
Right.
Kind of
and
surviving.
What are you busy with right now?
Well, I work at this wonderful place called Rhinebeck Kitchen and Bath.
Uh-huh.
The owner, Bill Schaefer, is a wonderful man. Big heart. I took this job because of him. And I'm busy with art. I mean, I'm an artist. I am constantly trying to make art that has deep meaning.
Uh-huh. And what are you working on right now, art-wise?
An icon project. I started doing these icons. They're triptychs to some, but I call them icons.
Mm-hmm.
And they started with photographs that I took out on the reservation. And then I kind of morphed it into the people that kind of live behind the veil in America. Those people that we don't really acknowledge or see because we're too busy with our own lives. And
Who lives behind the veil? What kind of people?
Usually people of color or people that, do the things behind the scenes, grow our food, cook our food, build the walls on River Road. The hardworking people that won't do the work that most white people don't want to do.
Right. Now, I've seen these photos. and I fucking love them. I remember the first time I saw one of them.
Thank you.
And it's just like, oh my God, that's the shit. That's so good. Can you describe for people listening what they look like and what they're about to you?
Sure. If any of you remember the religious icons of the 5th and 8th century that the church had paid a lot of artists to make, I kind of riffed off of the church and created three panels. I'm working on one now that has 6 panels. And instead of Christ sitting with Mary, I'm putting indigenous people front and center, or these hardworking people that live south of our border. Right now I'm working with people from Mexico, Guatemala, and I'm just making art because I'm pissed off, and I feel a responsibility to do that.
Pissed off about what?
Just how messed up America is.
Right. In what way? I mean, which there's so many ways. Is your art addressing one particular thing?
This is the thing that's got me pissed off. I'm pissed off about the environment. I'm pissed off about our politics. I'm pissed off about our racism. I'm pissed off. The list is kind of endless. I can't really think of anything I'm really happy about, except I'm glad to have a job and a car and beautiful daughters. But the country's going down the tubes, and if you want to go there, we could do that. Because
we're talking about your art and your pissed offness that's feeding into the creation of it.
That stuff feeds into my creativity. And that's what I do, and I love it.
But describe the actual photos of these people behind the veil.
Okay, so in one photograph, a photograph's worth 1,000 words.
Well,
I'll try to do my best. But
I work as a writer sometimes, and I'm not sure.
All right, so in one photograph, I have a picture of Wounded Knee. It was a terrible massacre there by our government. And on the left side, there's, the Wounded Knee monument, and then overlaid over that is the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, which America has, I think there's 335 treaties that we've signed with First Nations people, and we haven't honored not a single one. So I just threw that up there to help people understand that we make these treaties, but we never honor them, and the end result is death. And that's the same thing. I did some photographs of a Hopi girl, Brooke Hoyangawa, and she's right in the middle triptych. She's in the middle panel, and on the sides you can see a scorched earth and also the lack of water.
Okay.
So these are all environmental. It's an environmental piece. And
so 3 panels. One scorched earth. The middle one is this Hopi girl. And then the other one is?
A landscape photography.
Okay.
Using Photoshop, I've been able to combine multiple images into one. And that's what I did.
All right. If anybody wants to go visit your website, what is that?
Yes, I hope people do. It's www.dangoldmanphotography.com.
Okay. And that's all spelled exactly how you'd expect. There's
Dan
no
Goldman
curveballs.
Photography. It's really important. Actually, if you want to see what I'm doing, you'll see it there.
Yeah. And this other series of people behind the veil.
And that's wonderful.
Can you describe that?
So here's the way this crazy mind works, okay? Back in the day, they used to have masquerade balls.
Sure.
I always like the church.
I think they do.
The church and the icons, and now the masquerade balls. The white people do some crazy shit. One of them was masquerade balls. I hope you're not going to any in the near future. Sorry if you
no
are.
Current plans.
Okay. So.
But why do you hope I'm not going to any?
Doesn't matter. It's not important to the story.
All right.
Okay. And so initially I'm like, why do people put these masks over their face? Like, what are they hiding from? And I took that idea of people hiding, and I photographed these guys that were building walls on River Road. They were so into it. And I created a little mask, except instead of a hole for the eyes, it's just a mask that you can't see who they are. So their identity is hidden. And these pictures speak to the fact that they aren't seen by our society, and also in part because they don't want to be seen by us. Not so much that, but there's an element of that.
Right. And what kinds of people have you photographed for this series with the mask?
These are the people from like Mexico, Guatemala.
So migrant workers, maybe
Right.
immigrant workers, maybe
migrant-
illegal immigrant workers.
You know, when Trump started calling these people deplorables, that pissed me off. Mm-hmm. And I was going to, put them front and center. They're not deplorables. They're really important. They do so much for us. They do so much for just us, and we don't even see it, recognize it, think about it. And that pissed me off. So I want to be I am a political artist, art activist.
Uh-huh. So you're taking pictures of these people. How do you find them?
I just approach them, and I say, I'm an artist.
Where?
Well, the Guatemalan guys who are building a wall on River Road.
Where else?
The kitchen in my favorite restaurant, the guy that was cooking my food. The First Nations people on the reservation.
Yeah. Farm workers in Red Hook?
And farm workers on the other side of the river. Not in Red Hook, but across the river. The guys that are growing our food. I approached them. They were all in. Everyone, these guys, they have to be careful. They have to have their identities hidden because some of them are undocumented laborers. But they understand what I'm doing after I talk to them, and they want to be a part of it.
And so you have the photos have them holding this mask over their eyes. It's a rectangle of cardboard or something.
It is, yeah.
On a stick. And they're holding it up
like a masquerade ball
to hide their eyes.
Yes,
like a masquerade ball. And what's the idea with that?
The idea is that they're living.
We got a baby out there who's pissed off at the government too.
I'm surprised more people aren't upset. Come on, let me hear it. Are you guys happy?
Yeah. If you're not crying, you're not paying attention.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good, Norm. That's true.
So they're holding this.
So they're holding this up. So in my research, W.E.B. Du Bois once said that many of the people of color are living behind the veil.
Okay.
And that really touched me. Because some of these people are hiding, and some of them are just there because they don't want to be on the other side, because they recognize how crazy it is on the other side.
And some of them are just not on our radar.
And some aren't on our radar. But, I can't. I have to say something. I have to do something, Norm. I have a responsibility to the earth and to people. Sounds crazy, but, I do. And
doesn't really sound crazy.
So this is all I have is I'm a photographer. So that's what I do. I make photographs, and I try to be political about it, because as much as the earth wants to see, as much as people want to see pretty pictures of Cooper Lake, which I'm happy to do, I need to do more.
Right. And this series, you call it the Behind the Veil series?
No, I call them icons. I don't really have a name for the Behind the Veil.
Okay. So they were part of the icon / triptych series.
Yes.
And you said you're doing one now, and those are 3 panels, the triptychs. You said you're doing one now that's 6 panels?
I am. I'm kind of going out on the limb here. You know how most religious icons have Mary holding baby Jesus?
Yeah.
Well, I have this woman that I know that has a baby that is from south of the border. She's going to pose to do the photograph for the center panel, and then I'm going to use all these workers and farm workers and all these other people as, like the 3 wise men. Were there 3 wise men?
There were.
I'm just going to kind of create kind of hint at a religious, try to create this feeling that, maybe Jesus, no offense, maybe Jesus, maybe that Christ isn't everybody, maybe Jesus, maybe this baby Jesus was Mexican, maybe he was a Jew, maybe he was, who knows? So I just want people to think, Norm. And we need to get out of whatever it is we're thinking. We need to break the norm. And then we need a new paradigm. So I'm just trying to do something different.
So is that sort of
provocative.
The message of this new piece, that like maybe there's a little bit of Jesus and the saintliness or the holiness in all of us?
Exactly. We're all holy. We're all sacred beings.
Uh-huh.
And that's important. And the church hasn't cornered the market on that, and either has the temple or the mosque or whatever.
But have the sort of Native American religious beliefs cornered the market on that?
No, I'm not doing this with Native Americans.
But many of the icons feature Native Americans, like the Hopi girl.
They do, but that's a different issue. I'm not equating Native Americans to Christians or
But on the
Jesus
topic of cornering the market of spirituality.
I'm not saying that the Native Americans have cornered the market on spirituality, but they have certainly got my attention and my heart.
Yeah, and it sounds like that kind of thinking is fairly pervasive in these series.
It is. I mean, everything that I do comes from the heart, and in some way could be connected to the fact that I've embraced Native American thinking, wisdom.
Specifically, what kind of thinking?
The way I walk and live my life.
Okay, which is wonderful.
You're a pain in the ass, Norm.
Why am I? Because I'm asking the questions that all my listeners really want to know. They're not here to ask. I'm asking on behalf of them. So your work can be seen on your website, dangoldmanphotography.com, but also, I think not next weekend, but the weekend after is the annual Rhinebeck area art studio views.
Correct.
Open studio thing.
Yes, I've been doing that for a few years.
Uh-huh.
My home will be open to anybody that wants to come and visit.
And do you happen to know the dates of that offhand?
It would be Labor Day.
Okay.
Weekend. Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And kudos to Joanna
Yes.
for organizing this year after year. She's
amazing.
She's amazing.
She's a powerhouse. She's going to come on the show next week to talk about it.
Excellent. She's great. She's always, I have this kind of special, cool relationship with her. She gets angry that I don't answer emails, and kind of like, I missed that one, which happens a lot with me.
Yeah.
But she is still, she loves my art, and I appreciate her so much for that.
Yeah, that's good. So this thing, there's a whole bunch of artists, like, I don't know, 40 or so?
At least. I mean, there are so 50? Many. There's a lot.
Tons. 60. It seems every year there's a bootload of them. I don't know if it increases. And it's sort of like from Statsburg up to Red Hook.
Yep.
It's not too far. Hyde Park, okay.
Mm-hmm. And Germantown.
Okay.
As far north as Germantown.
Okay. And they open their studios, and people get in their cars and they visit a bunch of artist studios.
Yeah, and some people even buy.
Yeah. So, and you've done this a number of years in a row, and I think you always sell a few pieces.
I do, yeah.
Which is nice. And these icons, will they be on view?
The icons will be on view, as well as the documented and undocumented laborers. Okay. The prints that were on view at Wham! In the Far and Wide show they had there.
Okay. Wham!, the Woodstock Artists Association Museum.
Correct, yes.
Over there in Woodstock. Yeah, I saw your stuff there. It was so gorgeous. But you had the undocumented or the migrant,
right.
Behind the veil, some of those prints. And they were just so striking. I mean, I thought there was the best stuff in the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're just amazing. So people can come by, see your stuff. They can buy it.
Talk to me. Let's talk. Let's get to know each other. Let's
look at you. All of a sudden, the Long Island is coming through here. That's good. And all right, I've got other questions.
Can we talk about tennis?
Sure. Let's talk about tennis.
Heavy.
Yeah. Talk about tennis. When did you take up tennis?
I took up tennis after punch bowl.
You're like, I can punch that with a racket in my hand.
Actually, my parents, we lived very close to a place called the Port Washington Tennis Academy. So when we moved to Port Washington, my parents were like, "Oh, let me give Dan." My parents were like, "Try tennis," And I did. And I loved it. And I learned the fundamentals of tennis. But then when basketball became a part of my life, they were like, well, you have to choose one or the other. I chose basketball.
We already had a nickname and everything.
Yeah, of course. How could you?
And was there a tennis team at the school where you were going at the time?
There was, but I didn't play on it.
Because you chose
all
basketball.
About basketball. Yeah, I practiced it every day.
But you continued to play tennis part-time?
Yeah, I began to play a lot of tennis when I moved to Douglaston. I moved to Douglaston, and we were members of the Douglaston Club. Douglaston Club.
The Douglaston Club. That sounds fairly exclusive.
That's a whole thing I'm not going to get into right now.
Why not? Now I'm really interested.
Of course.
Yeah.
And Douglaston is famous for many great tennis players, professional tennis players.
Such as?
John McEnroe, Mary Carrillo.
Never heard of them.
People like that.
Yeah.
So the guys that I met in Douglaston were all friends of McEnroe. And, these guys were all players.
Uh-huh.
And they let me into their circle, and we all became really close.
Because you must have been a pretty good player back in the day.
I was okay.
Huh.
I was okay. And they played with me, and my game improved. And also my father introduced me to tennis as a little boy. And I loved that. My dad, when he got older and he retired, I loved my father so much. He had a group of guys that he hung out with when he retired. And these guys would play tennis together, and then they'd go out for breakfast. And it was like a little group of guys. And I just, I don't know, it really touched me.
It's funny. Now I see you often with a group of guys in front of Bread Alone.
I can't believe you brought that up.
Why?
Because I haven't been with that group of guys for a long time, because I'm a working man.
Oh, that's right. You are now.
But I just want to, here, this is important.
I mean, let me say,
one of those,
you've always been a working man, but now you have like a 9 to 5 kind of thing.
Yeah. And the thing is, today I went to a memorial service for one of those Bread Alone guys.
Oof. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Those guys are great. Great group of guys. And
I'm just saying, you described your dad doing sort of the same thing, and now here you are.
I'm drawn to these people, these people that when they get old, they stick together, have their group of friends, and, they need each other.
Right.
And I can appreciate that.
Nice. All right. Before we went on air, you were talking about being a kid and road trip games, traveling around.
Yes. So last weekend, I went out with my friend Jennifer to go swimming at Taconic State Park, Bash Bish Falls.
Oh.
So for a brief moment, I was on the Taconic State Parkway. And when my kids were little, we always used to go camping. We'd drive from Queens up to Taconic State Park to go camping. And one of the games we played in the car, everyone plays games in the car with their kids. One of the games we played was called Deer Sign.
Deer sign.
Deer sign.
Okay.
And the object was to spot the deer sign on the side of the road before anyone else in the car.
So this is when you were a kid, you and your brother and your mom and dad.
No. This is a game that my ex-wife and I invented.
Oh,
to play with our
kids.
And we would drive on trip. We used to go to the Adirondacks a lot. Wherever we went. Want to play deer sign? It's better than looking at license plates and looking. I don't know. What's that game people play with license plates?
Alphabet.
This is so much better. Deer sign.
Deer sign. Simpler, anyway.
Simpler for sure.
Yeah.
And we play this game. And whoever saw the sign first gets a point. And in the early days of this game, I always won, or my ex-wife always won.
Yeah.
And then the girls grew up. Their eyes were so much better than mine. They were like half a mile away. They're like, deer sign. I'm like, that's not a deer sign. What are you talking about? That's a sign. Nope. Oh my gosh, that's a deer sign.
That's hilarious. The ridiculous games that parents and kids invent.
Yeah.
Kids especially always inventing something absurd.
Yeah.
So
so much fun.
So you brought up going to Taconic State Park. Did you play deer sign going up there with your friend recently?
I did not, but I thought about it. And that's why it's still in my head because it was only last weekend. But we went swimming at Bash Bish Falls, at the campground. And
did you go in the big lake there at Taconic?
Not the lake, Norm. It's not the lake. We went to the campground that has a quarry of ice cold water that's crystal clear.
Bet.
No one should go because there's too many people there already.
Yeah, that's definitely going to dissuade people from going.
Anyway, it is a magnificent place, and everyone should. If you're hot, like last Sunday,
Yeah, it was 1,000,000 degrees.
1,000,000 degrees. I'm going to
3,000,000% humidity.
Copac.
And you
Heck
were in
yeah.
just the right place.
Yeah.
And this, I'm guessing, spring fed, or is there a
is
creek or something?
No, it's spring fed.
Quarry pool.
Big quarry, but there is, lifeguards there, and they've roped it off, and there's a dock out there, and it's just wonderful. And when my kids were little, it was like a really safe place to take them swimming, and it was right next to the campground, so it was perfect.
So you took your kids when they were little up to
I did. Yeah, I've been going there for like 30 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think I've been there like twice. And the kids, what you said, they're both in the city? Are any of them in the arts?
Neither of them are in the arts. One is an engineer, and if you ever see these really big buildings being built in New York, these sky high. My daughter Kate, I love you, Kate. She's an engineer, and she's working for a company that builds these buildings. My daughter Georgia, who I love so much.
Let me just stop right here, because it's one of the most endearing things about you. If you get to know Dan Goldman, you immediately latch on to how much he loves his kids. And that's just, I love to see that.
Yeah. I mean, they're my children.
Yeah. All right. This is a kind of a
So Georgia's the bomb too. I love you, baby.
Anybody else? Brother? Shout out to your brother.
Shout out to my brother, Lori, Zach, Skylar.
Now you got to get them all to listen. Our ratings are going to be through the roof.
Can't wait.
One last thing. I wrote up your thing this morning to put out on social media on you coming here, and I sent it to you to approve, and sent it to Matt to approve. Matt said, "Oh, you forgot to put in teacher."
Yes.
Of all the things I put on there, because you do so many beautiful things. Talk about your role as a teacher. What do you do?
Well, when I moved up here, I took all the knowledge that I had accumulated from photography and opened up a photography center called the Rosenberg Photography and Art Center with my friend Richie. Shout out to Richie. Love you too, Rich.
Like a hot 97 here.
I can't help it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, this is what I know. This is what I do. This is what I know. This is who I am. So I started teaching students privately photography and Photoshop.
Nice.
And I love it.
And are you still doing that?
I'm still doing that. I have like 3 or 4 private students right now. Jackson, I am so proud of you. Enough said.
All right. So if people wanted to sign up for one of your classes, a group class or individual tutoring, how would they track you down?
They would go to my website.
DanGoldmanPhotography.com?
No, they wouldn't go to that one.
Different website.
They'd go to the Rosenberg Photography and Art Center, which is a website that is working.
Rosenberg
I need help with Lomakachi, though, please, people. This is really important.
Rosenberg, well, when you get all of these new clients, because they go to the Rosenberg Photography and Art Center.com. Can you say that again?
The Rosenberg Photography and Art Center.com.
Okay. And they can see about your classes.
I can see about my class.
Sign up. I know you do group classes on sort of nature, landscape.
Yeah, whatever people need to work on.
And what percentage of the teaching is Photoshop and what percentage is photography?
Say it's 2/3 like photography and 1/3 Photoshop.
Nice. One of these days I'm going to sign up for one of those classes.
Love that.
See what I can learn. Well, we are out of time. It's flown by.
Impossible.
Yeah, it's actually only been 10 minutes, but I'm bored. No, it's been an hour, Danny, and I'm so happy that you were here. And thank you for gracing the airwaves with your presence and your stories. And everybody.
Thank you, Norm.
Thank you, Danny.
It's so nice to spend time with you and share my story.
Wonderful. Everybody have a happy Friday. Thanks for tuning in to radiofreerhinecliff.org. Thanks to the Epicurean and to Matt and Jen especially. Have a great Friday. Bye.